the subject of oaths, it's in the book of Hebrews, and it says there that an oath settles all problems, settles everything. An oath settles all dispute. Is that true? Should an oath settle all dispute? Let's ask this, and I want you to help me out. I don't ask these questions because I have the answers. I ask these questions because I have the position. Sometimes I have the answer, but even if I have the answer, you may tell me something that I don't know, and I want to know, what is an oath? What is an oath? Our preachers take oaths at their ordinations and their confirmations. People who are public officers take oaths. For example, just take law enforcement officers. Do law enforcement officers follow their oaths? What is the oath of a law enforcement officer, by the way? Or a president, from a president to a law enforcement officer down here in rural America. What is the oath? Do you know fundamentally what it says?
I think enforce the law and to obey the Constitution. I think that's always in there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's in there. It says, I've taken the oath 7 times. I counted one time. I didn't realize I'd taken it so many times. But it's fundamentally the same. It changed a little bit. When I was state's attorney, I took the oath, and they put it on a piece of paper. You sign it after you take it, and they stick it in a file. It fundamentally says that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and uphold the law as well. That the laws conflict with the Constitution. What do we do? During the English Revolution, when Britain convened the Westminster Confession, or the Westminster Convention, the men at Westminster, Minster is the best way to say it, they convened them, and one of the problems they had was men had taken oaths that were conflicting. The church and the country. The church was over in Rome, and the country was here, and they were saying there's a problem here. We've got people that we have taken oaths to do 2 different oaths to obey one man, and they took an oath to support their country, and one man's telling them, the man they took an oath to obey is telling them not to support their country that they've also taken an oath to. It caused a terrible problem. Now, we have people in the United States today who are dual citizens. Dual citizenship seems to be an upcoming thing. Take an oath to be a citizen of Mexico, and then take an oath to be a citizen of the United States, support the Constitution of the United States, when I know that there's not a Mexican in government in Mexico that would ever dare to think about supporting the principles of the Constitution of the United States. I mean, they don't have anything to do with that. They tried it once in 1824, and they never used the thing. That's why Texas rebelled. They had it, didn't use it, and the reason they didn't use it because it wasn't something that they were prone to like, for whatever reason. But oaths are very important. Let me ask you this. Have you taken an oath to be your profession? Did you take an oath? You did. Do you remember much about it?
Well, when we were school teachers, I know I had to defend the Constitution.
You took an oath there to do that?
Yeah, school teachers.
What state was that?
Texas and in Michigan.
As a school teacher?
Yes.
That teachers all over America teach things that are contrary to the Constitution. One of the reasons is because they don't have a clue what's in the Constitution. So it's not always intentional, and they just follow the textbook. But isn't it the hallmark of the Christian faith that men and women decide for themselves what is right and what is wrong? And if you take an oath, do you think God will require it? I was reading just yesterday, read through that in Leviticus, and it says if a man sins and knows not, he trespasses upon another man. If a man sins against the Lord and trespasses on another person, isn't that interesting? Trespass upon another person is sin against who? The Lord. And in those cases, what you're supposed to do is not bring an offering to God. That's not the point of the passage. The point of the passage is you're supposed to return what you've wrongfully taken and add 20%. Fascinating. And those things aren't paid much attention to, but anyway, you've taken this oath. So you've taken the oath. Now you're not a school teacher anymore. You're whatever you're doing. You're a doctor. So are you bound by the oath you took as a school teacher? In hindsight, looking back at that oath you took, are you? Let's settle that one right now.
My assumption was that was for the period of time in which I was teaching school. but that's my assumption.
Okay.
I know that there's areas that are clear cut, and then there's areas that are up to interpretation.
I presently take the position that if you've taken an oath like that, you're bound for the rest of your earthly days. And that's something we can look into a little further. That's my position now, because you said you assume, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But I find I can think of nothing that would change that assumption right now. I do see the sensibility of what you're saying. You assume, well, I'm a school teacher, and that it's for this time. Like I took it when I was a military guy, and am I justified in assuming it was for that time? I don't know that I am. The Bible says that what you vow, or when you take an oath, God will require it of you. The question we're wrestling with here a little bit is, at what time is it binding? How long is it binding? I suppose if you took an oath and you cut it off at a certain point in the oath, or it was just understood between the parties, that it would be binding like a contract for a certain time. That's something we can look into a little bit, maybe later on. It's different than a promise. How is it more than a promise? Brainstorming here so nobody can criticize anyone's point of view.
It gives the idea, more so I think, that it is of graver import if it is broken. That it's not maybe as easily broken as perhaps a promise might be.
Why?
It has something to do with probably the consequences of breaking.
When you swear an oath traditionally in America, what do we do with our hands? That was done in Rome, wasn't it, in the ancient days?
Oh, they did something like that.
And then it was done in Germany. Then we pledge. That's a little different. Pledge is a little different. We do this over our hearts. But the oath, what do we do with our hands with the oath?
One hand is usually on the Bible, and the other hand is raised.
Traditionally, in the English-speaking world, which now I guess covers the globe, but when it was just us, North America and England, which hasn't been that long ago, really, we put one hand on the Bible, and we raise the other one. It's funny. We do these things. People don't even stop to consider what we're doing. You're in court. You get on the witness stand. Raise your right hand, please. Why do you do that?
I'm required to affirm
or
that. Is that right?
That's what the Constitution says, affirm or swear. And the reason it says that, because the Quakers were a large part of our population in Pennsylvania especially, and they believed that they were never to swear an oath. But they were Christians, so they didn't want to cut them out. But there are many people today that way too. Well, let's ask this. Are the Quakers right? Are the Quakers correct? We should never swear an oath, or other Christian groups say the same thing. Yeah, are they right? You're taken into court, and they ask you to swear an oath. Should you?
When I've been asked to do it, I say I affirm.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, you did. Oh, in deposition. Taught that in your circles of Christianity about
yes.
vows, and talks about oaths, and they're two different words. Sometimes they occur in the same sentence. Obviously, there's a distinction. A vow is specific and done usually very quickly, maybe on the spur of the moment. So it is a little different. An oath is ceremony. We talk about the word general. We're talking about 1 Corinthians 10:31. The word general, and I followed up on this not long ago. I got to thinking about it. You and I were talking. The word general means in every case. It means that and it means that in every case. General is a very important word. It doesn't mean, it's not a loose word. It's a tight word. It means in every case. So when we use that word when we're discussing, I want us to have the same understanding of the word, and then we can have a more meaningful discussion. Oath in general, in every instance, an oath is a promise done by ceremony. Every ceremony is a promise on octane. That's all a ceremony is, but that's a lot. Ceremonies are promises in hyper. Ceremonies are oaths. The Lord's Supper is an oath. Marriage ceremonies are oaths.